The content of this webinar will build upon the grant proposal instructions you received with your invitation to the grant proposal phase. For your convenience, a copy of the grant proposal instructions has also been included in the handouts section of the GoToWebinar dashboard, along with copies of the PowerPoint presentations for today. The GoToWebinar dashboard will also allow you to type and submit questions. Please feel free to submit your questions while our presentations are in progress, and questions will be answered at the end of each presentation. Please note that in order to maintain the integrity of the competitive process, CDFA is unable to advise and/or provide individuals with feedback on specific proposals during the solicitation process. In this presentation, we will be discussing several aspects of the proposal process, including how to apply, the grant proposal application, the review process, grounds for disqualification, and award requirements. Grant proposals are due Friday, February 12th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Late submissions cannot be accepted, so be sure to contact us with any questions as soon as possible. And please allow yourself an adequate amount of time to access the FAST system and complete your application. CDFA will submit recommendations to USDA in May, and we anticipate that USDA will announce an award funding in the fall of 2021. Just as with the concept proposals, grant proposals must be submitted electronically using the FAST system. The FAST system has been updated with the questions that must be answered for the grant proposal and the attachments required for the grant proposal phase. If you haven't already, you will log into FAST using the same username and password you used in the concept proposal phase. In FAST, click on Active Applications to access the grant proposal questionnaire and complete your application. Just note that if you need to access or reference the feedback provided for your concept proposal, you'll need to click on the Submitted Applications menu item. And just some reminders about the FAST system. It was designed and tested for use on a PC using Internet Explorer. We recommend that you use Internet Explorer, disable any pop-up blocking software while using FAST, and save your work often. When completing your grant proposal, content that was provided in FAST during the concept proposal phase should be reviewed and revised if necessary. If a project is awarded funding, the project description will be published on both CDFA's and USDA's websites. Therefore, it is beneficial to provide a summary that gives a snapshot of the entire project, including describing the need for the project goals and outcomes, and the plan for measuring project success. And importantly, the summary should be suitable for dissemination to the public. In addition, there are a number of reasons that a project budget may change from the concept proposal phase. If the final budget amount in the grant proposal varies from the original amount requested, please be sure to update the project budget in FAST, including the funds requested, local cost match, and total budget fields as appropriate. Note that in the event the total budget amount indicated in the budget narrative differs from the amount indicated in FAST, we will review the grant proposal based on the dollar amount indicated in the budget narrative. Also remember that substantial changes to a project budget are not appropriate, and budget amounts requested must be between $50,000 and $450,000. The grant proposal application questionnaire consists of 12 questions and 3 required templates for a total of 100 possible points. There are 5 questions that carry over from the concept proposal, which are marked with an asterisk on this and the following slides for your reference. It is expected that responses to these questions will address any administrative and/or technical review committee feedback that was provided from the concept proposal review. In addition, responses should be expanded as needed to reflect the fully developed grant proposal. I will briefly review each question on the next few slides. However, it is important to read the grant proposal instructions document thoroughly, as it contains more detailed information needed to complete the application. The first question is project purpose, and it's worth 10 points. For this question, be sure to address all of the following: the specific issue, problem, or need your project will address, why it is important and timely to the specialty crop industry, and identify at least one of the 2021 SCBGP program priorities for the chosen funding category, as described in the request for concept proposals, and explain how the project addresses the priority. Question 2 is the project objectives and work plan and is worth 20 points. The project objectives and work plan is one of the grant proposal questions that will utilize a downloadable template. Within the template, you will enter the project's start and end date, identify the objectives and activities of the project, indicate who will perform each task and when each task will occur. We will go over this template and all of the grant proposal templates in separate presentations during today's webinar. Question 3 is project beneficiaries and is worth 10 points. In this section, address all of the following. Estimate the number of project beneficiaries. It is important that the number cited be a reasonable estimate of the number of individuals that could realistically be directly impacted by the results of the project, and estimates should be trackable and reportable. Identify and quantify the project beneficiaries and describe how they will benefit, and describe how the project benefits the specialty crop industry rather than directly benefiting a single organization or individual. Question 3 is especially important for those applicants that received feedback indicating that their concept proposal has the potential to benefit the applicant. Question 4 is specialty crop enhancement and is unscored. SCBGP funds must enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops as defined by USDA. So if your project has the potential to benefit non-specialty crops, describe the method for ensuring that SCBGP funds will not be used towards this purpose. Common examples of projects that have the potential to benefit non-specialty crops would be projects involving farmers markets where non-specialty crops are sold, or projects involving nutrition education that will also include information on grains or protein. If cost sharing will be used to cover activities and or costs that are unallowable under the program, describe the specific funds or contributions that will be used, including their source, and detail the activities and costs they will cover. If the project does not have the potential to enhance the competitiveness of non-specialty crops, the questionnaire will prompt you to indicate this project does not enhance the competitiveness of non-specialty crops. Question 5, prior year SCBGP projects, is a multi-part question and is unscored. If the project you are submitting builds upon a previous SCBGP project, include the grant agreement number for the previous project or projects and the outcome from these projects. Describe how the new proposal is different from and builds upon the previous work, and provide any lessons learned from the previous projects, including potential improvements and how they will be incorporated into the new project. If the project does not build on a previously funded SCBGP project, the questionnaire will prompt you to indicate this project does not build upon a previously funded SCBG project. Question 6, project sustainability, is worth 10 points, and there are 2 possible responses to the question of sustainability. Generally, if the project involves a marketing campaign, nutrition education, or a training program, the response to this question should address the likelihood of the project becoming self-sustaining and not indefinitely dependent on SCBGP funds. The second response, indicating the benefit to the specialty crop industry that will continue beyond the grant duration, may be most appropriate for research projects or any other projects with a standalone outcome that will not require continued effort to benefit California specialty crops. Question 7, other support from federal or state grant programs, is unscored. SCBGP funds cannot duplicate activities funded by other federal or state grant programs. If your organization has applied for and or received funding from another source, address each of these questions in this section. If the proposal has not been submitted to or funded by another federal or state grant program, the questionnaire will prompt you to indicate this project has not been submitted to or funded by another federal or state grant program. Note that if you are awarded SCBGP funding and are subsequently awarded funding by another agency, you are required to immediately notify your assigned CDFA grant analyst. Grant proposals should have the support of the specialty crop industry. Therefore, in question 8, external project support, which is worth 10 points, identify at least one specific specialty crop stakeholder and explain why they believe the project is important and timely. Specialty crop stakeholders are individuals or organizations involved in the specialty crop industry. Support from the applicant, employees of the applicant, contractors, or any other entity that will receive project funding should not be included. Similarly, organizations that will contribute cost share to the project should not be included under the external project support section, as their participation in the form of project support is apparent and addressed directly in the cost sharing summary. In addition, in the grant proposal phase, applicants have the option of attaching letters of support to the grant proposal application in FAST. Letters of support should be written on stakeholders' official letterhead to be addressed to CDFA's Office of Grants Administration and explain why the stakeholder supports the project. Although letters of support are not a requirement of the SCBGP, they are strongly encouraged as they demonstrate industry support for the project. Question 9 is the outcome measures and is worth 20 points. This question also has a downloadable template that must be completed and attached to the application. Since this is the same template that was used in the concept proposal phase, the content provided should build upon the outcome measures provided within the concept proposal application and also address any administrative or technical review feedback that was received. As a reminder, all chosen outcome measures and associated indicators and/or sub-indicators must be achievable within the grant duration. And it is important to note that the outcome measures and indicators were developed by USDA and the Office of Management and Budget, and therefore they cannot be changed, altered, reworded, or amended. As mentioned, the outcome measures template will be reviewed in more detail in a separate presentation. Question 10, the budget narrative is worth 20 points and also has a downloadable template that must be completed and attached to the application. The budget narrative template requires a much more detailed description of the funds requested than was provided in the concept proposal budget template. However, still must ensure that all costs conform with the federal cost principles and the USDA and CDFA requirements for this program. And again, as mentioned, the budget narrative will be reviewed in more detail in a later presentation. Question 11, cost sharing is unscored. If your project will receive cost sharing in the form of matching funds or in-kind contributions, a cost sharing template should be completed. However, note that cost sharing is not a requirement of this program and is not necessary to complete this template if your project does not have cost sharing. If the project will not utilize cost sharing, the questionnaire will prompt you to indicate this project will not utilize cost sharing. The final question, question 12, is project oversight and is also unscored. For this question, attach a current resume or curriculum vitae for the project director, project manager, principal investigator.
Unmuted. Unmuted.
A portion of the project funds. Please attach these in PDF format. As with concept proposals, grant proposals undergo both an administrative and technical review before submission to USDA. Projects may be subject to additional questions from CDFA and/or USDA during this process. However, please note that not all projects awarded funding are subject to additional questions, and not all projects that receive additional questions will be awarded funds. And ultimately, USDA makes the final determination on projects that will be awarded funding. Here's a quick review of items that may result in the disqualification of a proposal. Incomplete proposals, including proposals with one or more unanswered questions necessary for administrative or technical review. Incomplete proposals, including proposals with missing, blank, unreadable, corrupt, or otherwise unusable attachments. Proposals that include activities outside the grant duration, and proposals that include additional content or documentation of any kind to circumvent the character limitations within the FAST system. Proposals for less than the minimum award amount or more than the maximum award amount. Proposals with unallowable costs or activities necessary to complete the project objectives, including indirect costs that exceed the limit set forth in the grant proposal instructions. And proposals in which the outcome measure and/or indicators and/or sub-indicators are altered. Each year, CDFA develops a new grant management procedures manual with a comprehensive explanation of the grant terms and conditions. The 2021 manual has not yet been completed, but you can review the 2020 manual for a more detailed explanation of the award requirements. The manual can be found by accessing the SCBGP website and clicking Recipient Resources under the Grant Resources heading in the right-hand menu on the site, or by using the link provided on this slide. The next few slides will briefly cover some of the terms and conditions of applying for and receiving an award. All organizations applying for funding, including past recipients, must have a Dun & Bradstreet Data Universal Numbering System number, also known as a DUNS number. A DUNS number is a unique, non-indicative 9-digit identifier issued and maintained by Dun & Bradstreet that verifies the existence of a business entity globally. The registration process can take several weeks, so applicants are highly encouraged to begin the registration process now. In addition to obtaining a DUNS number, organizations must be registered in the System for Award Management, also known as SAM. A link to SAM can be found in the grant proposal instructions. Currently, a DUNS number is required in order to register in SAM, so if your organization does not have a DUNS number, this step must be completed before you can begin the registration. Successful 2021 applicants will be required to provide their organization's DUNS number and have an active SAM registration before a grant agreement can be executed. It is important to note that SAM accounts have to be renewed on an annual basis. If your organization receives funding and does not renew its SAM account, your grant agreement may be suspended until SAM is renewed, which could affect your ability to complete the project within the grant duration. Finally, all successful 2021 SCBGP applicants will enter into a grant agreement with CDFA and must follow the guidelines outlined in the Grant Management Procedures Manual referenced on the previous slide. More information about the following requirements can be found in the Grant Management Procedures Manual. For a standard SCBGP award, invoices are reimbursements of actual expenses. Invoices must be submitted at least quarterly, but no more frequently than monthly. And invoices are required regardless of whether or not project costs are incurred during the invoice period. In addition, applicants awarded funding must submit progress reports on a biannual basis. and final performance reports no later than 30 calendar days following the expiration date of the grant agreement or after the project is complete, whichever comes first. Applicants should also anticipate at least one site visit and one audit or desk review within the grant period. CDFA may put more stringent requirements in place for any non-compliant organizations, and note that past performance is a factor in the awarding of future funding. And recipients must retain financial records, project records, and supporting documents until December 29th, 2027, or until any litigation related to the grant is resolved, whichever is later. Please be sure your organization has the capacity and processes in place to retain all records related to the grant award. At this time, USDA has not yet published its 2021 request for applications or provided terms and conditions for the 2021 SCBGP. CDFA does not anticipate any major changes when the request for applications is released. However, if necessary, CDFA will attempt to prepare and make available a supplement to advise applicants of any changes to the program upon receipt of USDA's request for applications. CDFA and all proposals will be subject to the terms and conditions of USDA's request for applications and guidance documents, and note that substantial changes could potentially affect the feasibility of proposals. CDFA will conduct 3 rounds of questions and answers, or Q&A, to address general questions about the grant proposal phase. Therefore, if you have any questions after today's webinar, please email them to grants@cdfa.ca.gov. Responses to most questions received during the webinars or by email will be posted to CDFA's SCBGP website according to the schedule on this slide and on page 19 of the grant proposal instructions. Note that the deadline to submit questions is Monday, February 8th, 2021 by 8 a.m. Pacific time. Here are some helpful resources, including CDFA's website and email address. Our website contains links to the grant proposal instructions, supplemental documents, and the required templates, and other helpful information. If you have any questions or problems accessing the FAST system while working on your grant proposal application, please contact the FAST Help Desk. And the FAST Help Desk is staffed Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.